Hello and welcome to Mastering in the Box. In today's video we're going to take a look at the Mixer Scenes function inside a Studio One 5 Professional and how we can use this to help us with our masters. Hello and welcome to Mastering in the Box. I'm your host Smudge, and in today's video we're going to take a look at Studio One 5 and how we can use the Mixer Scenes function inside of the song page to help us with our masters. Before we get into the content of today's video, if you want to know more about digital mastering, then please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and make sure you tick that bell and select all to receive notifications on all of our videos moving forward. So the inspiration for this week's video come from a message from Nick's Corsair S1 Tips YouTube channel, and Nick came up with a great question asking if I could do a review of the Mixer Scenes function inside the Studio One 5 Professional and how we can use this for our mastering. So if anyone saw my video last week where I go through my 2021 mastering template, I detail how I'm using the song page in collaboration with the project page to get a really great mastering template to really speed up my workflow. And as part of the using the song page for the mastering workflow, we can make use of some of the other functions such as the mixer scenes to get a real good advanced mastering template. So what are the mixer scenes? Now first and foremost, the mixer scenes are only available in Studio One 5 Professional. So if you have a copy of the Studio One 5 Professional or you are a member of the subscription service Sphere, then you will have a copy of Studio One 5 Professional and you'll be able to access the mixer scenes function. And it's available only in the song page. It's not a function that's available in the project page at present, but as I say, it's a mixer scene function that's available in the mixer window. And what does it do? Well, it basically enables us to save insert effects and copies our insert chains, so we can really kind of get down into a good comparison as to what the different inserts we're applying do at any moment in time in our masters. So let's go through this now in a little bit more detail. Now I'm going to go through and show you exactly what the mixer scenes do. But before we get into what they do, let's just discuss some of the limitations. As of January 2021, one of the things it will not do is it will not record insert effects placed on the event. So if you are applying event effects, then it will not record those event effects. It will only record the effects on the main track inserts. So whereas last week, if I showed you my 2021 mastering template, I do like to make use of the event effects, especially when I'm doing some more advanced editing. But if you want to make use of the mixer scenes, then you'll have to apply the inserts on the track rather than on the event effects. Another thing that the mixer scenes do not do is they do not record automation. So any volume automation you apply in the song page, if you save a mixer scene, it will not record automation. Anything you apply on the master channel will be there by default. So if you save a mixer scene and you take something off the master channel, it will then remain off the master channel even if you go back to an older mixer scene. And one thing I'd really like to see is I like to use normalising audio for a lot of my gain staging when it comes to mastering. And if I normalise the audio, and say for example if I wanted to compare a master with the audio normalised and do another version, say stacking limiters, which is another technique that I showed yourselves, it won't allow us to do that. So if I normalise the audio, then any mix scene that I go into, the audio will always be normalised. So we won't be able to go in and do a comparison, something along that kind of lines. But there are a lot of things that we can do with the mixer scenes, and this is a great use of the inserts function here. And anything we place here, we can then save here in the mixer scenes to be able to have a good comparison against what our plugins are doing. So let's take a brief listen to the song. This song is a song called My Father Never Loved Me by the band Trafficker, and this is another track that's available through the Cambridge Music Technology website. As per always, I'll leave links in the description down below. It is a great resource and certainly check it out. So let's play a brief part of the song. I've got a limiter on the master bus and I've just got the loudness meter on the post. So let's take a brief listen.
next day.
So it's a great sounding track. Now the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of control the low end. So one of the things I noticed with the kick, it's quite flubby. So I really wanted to kind of give it some more definition and body. And there's two ways, or the two ways that I wanted to approach this was, first and foremost, one of the things I'm finding with experience is just by using a mastering compressor, although it applies compression to the entire stereo signal, it certainly, in my experience, tightens up the low end. So the other example I'm going to show you in a second is how we can do or try to achieve the same thing just with a multiband compressor focusing on the low end. But first and foremost, let's take a listen using the master compressor and see what this does. So just by applying a mastering compressor over the entirety of the master itself, just really kind of gives that more rounded, defined kick and the low end that I'm after. But we can actually try and do this with a multiband compressor as well. So what I've got here is I've saved a scene, and to do it you go into the mixer console, and down here you will see this little box here, and it brings up the mixer or the mixer scenes window. And to do it, all we do is click on this add button here and we save a scene. And every time we put an insert, we can right click here and update the scene. But what I've done is I've actually gone through, I've saved the first scene with the master compressor, and I've saved another scene with a multiband compressor just for the low end, and I've called it MB low end. So if I double click on that, you'll see here it's now changed the insert from a master compressor to the multiband compressor. And if we open this up here, I've bypassed all of the bands except for the low band, and the low band is from 0 to 98.7 Hz. We've got 1.5 to 1 ratio, and say I'm only bringing down the low threshold just to get some gain reduction. And let's take another listen to this track now with the multiband dynamics.
That same day, if my mother hadn't been strong, we would have drowned that same day. In the evening when the sun
So it's just, all this is going to do is really just focus on the low end. Anything above 98.7 Hz isn't going to be affected by any compression at all. Whereas when we're using the master compressor, because it's effectively a broadband compressor, it will affect the entire stereo signal. In my opinion, I actually much preferred the mastering compressor. So what I then actually did is I went back, and this is where you can just double click on the scenes and it will take you back to whatever scene that you want. So just make sure you save and update any scene where you make any amendment. Now the other thing I wanted to do is kind of really, now I wanted to kind of give the low end some more, say, that depth and roundness. One of the things, the compression was kind of really bringing things in, but it wasn't kind of giving me that tonal definition I wanted. So I wanted to then apply some EQ. So what I've then done is I've applied the Pro EQ in conjunction with the master compressor, and I've saved it as another mix scene. So if I click here, you'll see that we then have the master compressor with the Pro EQ. And then what the Pro EQ is doing is I've got a small boost. Let's say it's 59.1 Hz, it's a low end shelf, and it's just 1.2 dB's worth of gain. But one of the things I wanted to do as well is take out some of those mud frequencies. So it's just 1.92 dB cut at 354 Hz. And let's take a listen to the track with the EQ engaged. So it was doing a lot of the job that I wanted to do, but one of the things I really wanted to kind of get into was the fact that when I'm boosting the low end, I don't want to boost all of the low end across the entire stereo signal. It was kind of adding a lot of low end as well on the guitars, which I didn't really want. Likewise with the cut, I really wanted to focus that cut on the mud of the guitars, so I didn't really want to kind of take too much away from the bass, and it was one of the kind of limitations I found by doing it this way. So I thought, why don't we have a look at some kind of mid-side processing? So what I then did is I then saved another scene using the BXV3 digital. It's a great plugin, this, and it offers mid-side functionality. So what this has enabled me to do is then use the EQ. I've got literally a low shelf 59 Hz 1.2 dB, but it's affecting the mono frequencies only. I then cut out a little bit of the 186 Hz, it's 1.7 dB, and this was really, when you get a lot of low end build up, I notice it kind of, if you get a lot of the mud in the low frequencies can really kind of build up. And I know when you get some distorted guitars, a lot of people looking at 300 Hz range, going a little bit lower actually takes out a lot of that kind of muffled sound. So just taking a little bit of a cut at 186 Hz of the mono frequencies only just gives a bit more clarity to the low end. And that is all I've done to the mono frequencies. Now with this particular plugin there is a mono maker. I haven't applied it in this particular instance, and this is just say affecting the mono frequencies only. So let's take another listen with the digital V3. So I preferred this option. I said just by really tailoring the EQ that we're doing and just really applying it to the mono frequencies only, it just gives a more rounded and more natural sound, certainly in my opinion. But I wanted to take that, once again, I wanted to take it a little bit further. And one of the good things about the mixer scenes you can do, if you're not entirely sure about a setting on a particular plugin, you can actually save another mixer scene by just amending some different parameters on a plugin and then saving the scene. So what I've got here is another scene with the same copy of the V3, but this is now going to affect the stereo frequencies. So what I've got here is there's a slight cut at 328 Hz. So we was talking about the mud of the guitars. I've just dipped a little bit of that out, I say 1 dB at 328 Hz. But I also wanted to kind of give that emulation of some added width, and a good way to do that is by applying a high shelf on the sides only, and by doing so it gives the impression that you're adding width without using a stereo widening plugin. One of the things with stereo widening plugins is they can affect a lot of the phase, so I like to do this particular tip with mid-side frequency, mid-side EQing, and just adding a shelf on the sides. And it says 1.3 dB gain shelf at 12k. And then with the mono maker, it's just really kind of rounding it in. So we tried it without the mono maker, and one of the things I just wanted to do is try it with all of the mono frequencies sub 100 Hz, purely in mono, so we're not getting any of that real low end in the wider stereo frequencies. So let's take another listen with this plugin now with the affecting of the sides. So it's just giving us that added flexibility. And let's say for instance, I'm not entirely sure whether I like that or not. I'm not entirely sure whether I want to do the mono maker and I want to cut that 300 odd Hertz out of the guitars. And let's just say I'm not entirely sure that I wanted to give that additional width to the side of the stereo frequencies. I can quickly just click on this one here, and if I go back into the BX Digital V3, all of the stereo EQ moves we made are back to normal. And let's take another listen. And I can just quickly double click on this scene here, and it's brought all those settings back again. And you can easily just go in, bypass your inserts, and just listen to exactly what the moves you've done with your plugins of choice on the inserts, and use the mixer scenes to their full capabilities. So it's a really great flexible tool to use to really save snapshots in time. It is only available on the inserts of the actual tracks itself, but you can do loads of options here. And if you wanted to include your reference track below, you could do that, and you could save the mute options, so you could do that as a mixer scene. One of the things I think would be really beneficial here, say for instance that I was mastering this as a commercial master for a client, and I'd made these moves, and the client come back and said, I'm not entirely sure about the high end. Let's say I want to take off the EQ on the high end of the guitars on the stereo frequencies, rather than actually going resaving the mix, so going in, making the amendments, resaving it, or saving a new project, saving a new version, rendering. I can just quickly go into the mix scenes, and I can make any amendments I want, save it as another mix scene, and then do another quick render, send it off to the client, and the client can come back and say, actually, I preferred that last one. You don't have to go then back into a previous version of the song. You can go into the same version, click on your mix scene, recall your last mix scene, do another render, or send it out to the client. There's so many different variations you can do that just saves you having to save different versions of the song by using the mixer scenes inside of the mixer console. So that's it for this week's video, and to you, Nick, I hope this has answered your question. To everyone else, I hope this has given you a bit of an enlightenment as to what the mixer scenes functions do. It is a really good, useful tool, and just some of the other things you could do with it. Say you wanted to try and master with saturation and one without, you could save separate mixer scenes so you can get a good comparison as to what saturation is doing to your mix. And as I say, you can have an endless supply of mixer scenes you can save to your heart's content, and this would be really useful for those who are mastering commercially. If you need to do revisions, you can do it on the fly. You don't have to save old versions and go back between new versions, old versions. You can just do it all in the same version, save your mix scenes, update your mix scenes, do a quick re-render and send them out to the client that way. So I hope you found this video useful. If you want to know more about digital mastering, then make sure you hit that subscribe button below, and make sure you tick that bell and select all to receive notifications on all of our videos moving forward. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you wanted to support the channel, I do have a link to buymeacoffee.com, so if you wanted to support the channel by buying me a coffee, there will be links in the description down below. I will also leave links in the description down below for Nick's YouTube channel. So he's got some videos where he's utilising Studio One, so I'll leave links to that channel as well. So all that's left for me to say is I hope you'll keep safe and well, and I'll see you in the next video coming real soon.